Yo, good evening, people. Yeah, today on this episode of Sermon with Shermans, we are going to be talking about being in the wrong state with the right state of mind. And that's something personal to me because sometimes I feel that way. Some of the stuff I talk about in the dress in the red state of Nebraska um, is looked at negatively, and it might be because we have alternative Negroes. And I just want to read this brief statement that I had already on here. Is across America, we are encountering the alternative Negro, a softer version of the real community representatives that outsiders should be engaging with. Omaha, Nebraska is no exception. So I want y'all to know this is not just in Omaha, it's all across the United States. We have this option of the alternative Negro. And here we see passive, non-aggressive Black individuals negotiating with outsiders without truly prioritizing the interests of the Black community. So today we're going to talk about it. We're going to go over it, and we're going to also come up with some solutions. So I'm going to give y'all this brief intro, and I'll be right back with you.
Determination to change the nation, I'm manifesting the truth. Back in the booth to give you the messages that's been channeling right through me. No, I'm not Jesus, although my spirit is great. I'm eating my food without a plate, escaping this place through my meditations. New life begun when I reloaded the gun and realized where I was from was not too far from the sun. Like somewhere close by the moon. Now I'm connected like Zoom. On walks of life that ever lived, call me like out of the blue. So I just pass it to you, right through your speakers with clues. And if you choose to free your mind, then you will have all the tools. But I can't make you take it and shake it and mentally break yourself out. Cause freeing your mind without a doubt is something you have to try out. But once you see the light, your might, and all the power you've had, then you have reached the fifth dimension and you can brighten your path. But others who choose to follow the red pills, it's harder to swallow. Or you can wallow in your sorrows, feeling all empty and hollow. The only way you'll see the truth is if it's starting with you. So please stop lying to yourself, start being truthful to you. The only way you'll see the truth is if it's starting with you. So please stop lying to yourself, start being truthful to you, to you.
All right. So now I know y'all didn't think I came alone to discuss this, right? I brought some of my special brothers, well, one of my brothers and one of my sisters with me because we're going to dive deep. And the best way to dive deep is with some deep thinkers and people that ain't afraid to talk around here. So without any further ado, let me bring on my co-host for today, Brother Jahi Malik Shabazz. How you doing, brother?
How you doing, my brother?
Sister Miss Weston. Hey, how you doing, sis?
Always wonderful when I'm with you.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Hold on, you know what? Let me back it up one more time. All right, there. We're gonna bring Miss Weston on first, and then
All right.
you know, I just want to make sure the ladies is first, you know. So yeah, she done got
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right, brother. We got a pillar to hold them up.
How y'all doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good.
I'm with good people. Anytime I'm with
yeah.
good people, I'm good.
Oh yeah,
I'm doing well, brother. All praise be to the Most High.
Mhm.
good, good. Michelle said hello to everybody. Hey, Michelle. So yeah, we're gonna dive right into this conversation because I know sometimes it can be touchy. People might feel a certain kind of way about it or think it's them, but they say if the shoe fit, you know. So what we are here to talk about is the alternative Negro. And I don't know about y'all too, but sometimes I do feel like I'm in the wrong state with the right state of mind. I know that for me, it seems like it's easy for us in North Omaha because, for one, we're a small town. Most of us is related somehow, some way. or we know people or got people in the family that's connected to somebody in the family. So for me, it seemed like it's easy for us to take control of our area, but it just seems like it's more difficult than what it should be. And it's not just Omaha. If you look at any black community in the United States, there's always the alternative Negro. Like it's just like a diluted representation of the black community. And I think the representation should reflect the real struggles, the needs, and the perception of black people. Um, and I know if it's happening in Omaha and across America, it means really like the black voices are being strategically selected, right? And filtered in a way that serve external interests rather than the community itself. And so I want to know, like, when we go through this, the real thing is to bring a solution. And so I want to know, how do we move forward with this issue? So the first key point that I want to ask both is identifying and uplifting authentic leadership. I feel like the community must actively like support and uplift leaders who are genuinely invested in Black progress, rather than those who merely want to maintain like the status quo, using keywords, using our data. Backing individuals who challenge systematic inequalities or inequities, and they push for real change, rather than those who prioritize like access or comfort to the outsiders, or personal advancement over collective progress. So Ms. Weston, I want to know, like, identifying uplifting authentic leadership. What is your opinion on that?
Well, first, I'd kind of like, could you probably kind of give a definition of what you're saying alternative Negro is? Because I'm sure there's people out there that may not understand what you're referring to, or may have a different idea. So if you could kind of go with that first.
That's a good question. I guess if we talking about, like, for me, alternative is beamed in off a spaceship or from out of town. Somebody that's not from here, that comes here with the ability to talk and negotiate, but they don't really have no family representation. So there's no legacy here. There's no grandmother's house. There's no, I went to school here, blah, blah, blah. And alternative to the fact of, say, if you were to give money to the actual Black people who had interests in the community, then you will see real change. There's the alternative where it's more about collecting that same money, but then paying staff, paying salaries, and not really putting it into the community they serve. And I think some of that has to do with, because there's no relatives or there's no invested interests, so that kind of alternative. But then, I think sometimes if you look at across America, it'd be people from your city that'll do it too.
I think that's where I was kind of leaning to is, alternative is probably has a different definition to each person, but I think we have a lot of alternatives that are here. They're not imported. Right. They don't come into it. They're already here. They have, and that's what's kind of hard for me to accept, is that they're here. You were born here, or you were raised here, or and you've had a lot of time or whatever. How do you do the things that you're doing to the city, to the people within the city, the community? So I have a hard time just saying alternative are those that come into, they have no roots here. I think in particular, I'm thinking of Omaha. We have a lot that have come into here, and it's kind of like the city, the powers that be, they don't want the ones that are already here, that live here, that were raised here. They don't want to give those same positions. They don't want that one. It wants it to be from outside of the community, and they come in from out of state. I think that there is a lot of that. If you look at a lot of the organization, who is the director of those organizations? When you look at young people who go to school here, or they go away, go to school, they don't want to come back here because those options are not given to them. And I'm not saying that you cannot be a good leader, have leadership skills if you came from outside. I'm just looking at where I'm at. And I see a lot of here in Omaha, the powers that be, they invest, and that's strategic. That's strategic. That's done. It's not just haphazardly. No, that's strategically done, is to keep that divide, but also, as you use the word Negro, okay, to keep the house Negroes there, to keep those yard Negroes in line. And that means, when I say that, and it's hard to say it because we're 2025, but we're still doing the same thing. We're still allowing this. And part of it we need to take responsibility for, because we have forgotten what our ancestors went through to get us to a point to be here. We're going backwards. So I would probably let, I'm not sure what your opinion is, Robert. And I got to get used to not saying Robert. I apologize. I will get it. I'll slip up.
But I think if you could answer that same question that she gave you, that gave me, like, what is your definition of an alternative Negro?
Well, I think she hit it right on the nose, brother. And we have to also be clear that this is a strategy from the white power structure here. It is strategy, not an accident.
She said that. She said very strategic as a mechanism of control.
Right. Because you have to understand the psychological dynamics of that. If you can bring someone else here who looks like us, but they're not connected to us, and then you can put them on a leash, then you can exude power all the time.
Ooh.
And it's psychologically easy for them to hurt us and be apathetic to us because they're not connected to us. And especially if you give them the bag. If you look at a lot of these organizations that are here, and the people who are supposed to be the leaders of these organizations, who also intercept all the money that's supposed to be coming to us, notice they're not from here.
Yeah.
And then when you also see this common denominator of the best people who show leadership are from here. But they make sure that those of us who are quality leaders don't have the resources. They intercept the resources. Okay. I mean, look at what happened with money with Target. Okay. We had close to $300 million, brother. Went to nonprofit talking boxes. Okay. Like, for example, like the Empowerment Network. What do they don't need millions of our dollars. Okay. And if you look at and I'm not against Empowerment Network or any nonprofit. I think nonprofits should be used the same way white people use their nonprofits. They use their nonprofits as a tax shelter. They use it as a way of conserving their money. So I'm not against us having nonprofits in Nebraska. Right. Not against any nonprofit. What has happened to us, brother, is nonprofit has become the single paradigm of a business. Okay. And then we're all in the begging line, begging to get some crumbs. And then if you're another thing about it being a nonprofit, you're not free. You're on a leash. So any money I give you, you have to get in line and ask for it again and again and again. And if you don't behave yourself, I'll cut off your supply line. So the nonprofits are really talking box, Band-Aid applications to a carcinogenic problem that we have, brother. Okay.
Well, we got a comment from YouTube that said, so why the desire to collaborate them or their organizations? Almost everybody who opposed Willie Barney Empowerment Network are now gravitating to them.
Because they gave them the money.
Mm.
When you're hungry, what are you going to do when you're hungry?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have to understand the psychological dynamics of manipulation that's in play.
And I think it goes back to what she said about the control, right? And so when we talk about identifying and uplifting authentic leadership, how do the community actively support and uplift leaders who are genuinely invested in Black progress? Ms. Weston?
Well, first of all, stop and think when we talk about leadership,
right?
And North Omaha, particularly, because that's where I'm mainly from and know about. South Omaha has the same. But when you look at leadership, again, there's definition leadership. Why is it that we always have to have a leader in order to direct you, in order to take care of everything? When you go and there are organizations that are West, they don't call them leaders. They call them the executive, the CEO, the whatever, but they don't say they're leaders. North Omaha and then South Omaha, those are the areas that you have to have a leader. And in some of the actions that some of us take and do when you do get something, I can almost see why it's considered that you have to have a leader. I look at it as those who stand to help or assist in helping up, not giving handouts. But a leader is one, we are all leaders within ourselves.
Yes, ma'am.
If we used it, and you talk about collaborative, here's where you come in. How do you take what you have within you and work with you, or work with you, or work with that one? We have to learn to do that. And if we're always, as he said before, when you're always waiting for that handout, and you will never get enough to be sustaining. It's just enough to get you through that cycle. And that's only if you do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. If you make a turn there and you skip one, you won't have enough, and then you will not get the next round. But I think when people start saying, I have it within myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do I take what I have within myself and work with you or whomever? How do we come together to get what we want and stand for what we want? I think particularly here in Omaha, and I heard something that was really upset me at the time, and I've had a little bit more time to think about it. But part of our problem, and really a lot of it here in Omaha, is we have forgotten who we are. Ooh. We have forgotten who our ancestors are.
Absolutely.
We have forgotten what we had. There were things that took and divided us. The interstate, the riots, all of that took away, because everything that we're trying to fight for now, we had. Right. We had that. But we allowed an integration. Integration was not our friend when we absorbed and used it. That was not. So we have to go back. And when I heard this, we are not our ancestors. You're right. We're not our ancestors, because our ancestors are the ones that got you to this point to be able to even speak. Your ancestors, we have not as a generation, each generation like mine, they wanted better. But we forgot to teach our children and our grandchildren, our whatever, we forgot to teach them to remember your past.
Right.
And that's where we're kind of stuck now. Because like here in Omaha, we had, I remember, and if people want to think, we would not be able to go to Peony Park if our ancestors hadn't stepped forth. Right. You would not have Black women You would not have women, period, driving Metro bus if our ancestors hadn't stepped forward. There's so much that we have here, and it's right here within ourselves. We don't have to have an outside leader if we just take what we have and use it together. Because see, unity, and that is one of the things that strategically has been done to us, is to divide. And that's how you are conquered. And that's what has happened. Now, how do we get back together and use what we have within us for the one purpose? And we have to decide, what is it we want? You know, that's been a thing with me around here in Omaha. We talk all this flowery stuff. We want economic development. Well, what is economic development?
Right. Yeah.
You can't define it. And you have to define something in order to know what you need to do. How do I get to that? Right. So I didn't mean to take all the time there, but
I think it's important. What you were saying is very important. And then, like she said, when Robert was speaking, that you were speaking facts, she noticed the paradigm of nonprofits, and that's why she didn't donate like she used to, because she didn't see the growth and change in the community, which leads right to our next thing about holding representatives accountable. And on YouTube, he said nobody wants to disagree and try to work on a solution through a disagreement. Once you are not 109% in agreement, these leaders ignore or block the interactions. And part of the problem is we are too nice to those doing damage just because we don't want white folks to see us disagreeing publicly. We are not certain of our strength and to do this and not seem weak. So how do we hold representatives accountable, call out or challenge individuals or organizations that engage in performing advocacy without really no action, without seeming like he said that we're just fighting publicly and having disagreements? Jahi, what you think about that?
Well, I think that, we have to be realistic about things, brother. A lot of us are not leaders,
right?
And we have, because we're in dire straits. Just because someone sounds articulate, or they might have some kind of talent or some kind of skill, that doesn't make them qualified for leadership in specific.
Boy, you better speak on it.
So what we need to understand is this, brother. Our opponent, our enemies, okay, they have budgets and they have systems. Okay. They put in place their budgets, they put in place their systems, and then they do a change of the guard of individuals who can function as a leader. And so what we need, brother, is we need budgets, we need systems, and we need quiet strategy rooms.
Well, to kind of go back to what Miss Weston said, what do we want? Like, you do all that talking and stuff, but what actually do we want? Yeah.
Well,
we've been saying that.
We have to also understand, brother, that some of our people are not going to understand. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not responsible for helping them or protecting them. Okay. What that means is, if you only know fractions, I can't talk to you about calculus. Okay. And so we have to strike a natural balance with that. Okay. And so we keep sending poodles to a dog fight.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You speak of a budget, but a budget, what are you budgeting for?
Right. Again, it goes.
What is it? I keep, I hear you, and I guess I'm being the devil's advocate. Okay. You tell me you want that, but what do you want? What do you want?
Right.
Well, for example, okay, the penal system, it has a budget, right?
Yeah.
You can have.
I think
you're still not saying what do you want from the people who have the power to give. Do you want to have your own school, and your school will require a $10 million budget? You cannot have a budget if you don't have something an ideal as to what you want.
So, Ms. Weston, do you feel like North Omaha don't know what we want, or we haven't put the plan together on what we want?
I think there's a lot of talk as to what people, because again, we've gone back to allow these people to decide, these so-called leaders. That's the reason why when someone says no, I tell them I'm not a leader.
Right.
I am an advocate
for
my community. I am an individual that has a mind to think with, thank God, and to do an action. And I'm willing to say to you, Mr. Wells, I have $15 million. What do you want?
Give me the
and
15 million.
9 times out of 10, you, not saying you personally, but you understand what I'm saying is they will not be able to define, and there is our problem. Why do we not have this? And I'm going to use the election just right now, our local election. We got about 9 people running for city council. All these 9 people for District 2. They keep talking about economic growth, opportunities, demand power. If you demand power, what do you want in that? And I can't go, I know I said it and I'll keep saying it. Why can't we ever come to define in that economic development? What is it you're saying? Do you want 15 new businesses? Do you want 15 new structures to put 15 new businesses in? What do you want? And if you know right now that would be so embarrassing is because guess what? If person came and said to us, and I'm just going to say us who are, I'll just use us for a second. Could you tell them what do we want? We can say, well, North Omaha needs what? What does North Omaha? Because if you define what North Omaha needs, you're coming from your perspective. Did you come from a collective? Did you have an engagement with the people to say, this is what we want? And when I say an engagement with the people, I don't just mean the same old ones that are brought together to decide what's going to be put into the city's master plan. No. Did you get out and go? Did you make that effort to go to the people and say, what is it you would like to see better in your neighborhood?
Right.
What's your number one? Is it a job? Is it an office? Is it a building? Is it a business? What is it? So, and I see here.
I would answer that. I would answer that just, and this is only from my perspective, like you said, but it's from engaging with the community. So if I was to ever get that kind of money, for me, it would be to have a campus for young kids before they enter the justice system that's showing symptoms of disobedience and running away and all that stuff. And I would prefer to have a campus outside of Omaha, somewhere out in the country. I could have a classroom, I could have a gym area, I could have everything that they need to be raised, and then take lived experienced people like Brother Shabazz and have them out there all day with these young men with no social media, where we're training them, getting their mind right, teaching them trades. And that to me would help with the community. But I get that information based off what I hear in the community. So are they actually getting out there to see what the community actually need? And then how do we demand transparency from those who claim to speak for the community, like the policies that they're advocating for, who's benefiting from the negotiations that they're having in these closed rooms, right?
Right.
You go back to what you said. Have you spoke to the community about this, or is it just your idea?
Chapman, brother, the community knows what we need.
We do know.
We clearly know what we need.
The money you need is money that don't come with strings attached. And these small business economic plans are going to take a long time to rebuild Black Omaha by only hiring 1 or 2 people.
Well, we need to understand this, brother, and be clear about this, okay? Ever since they shot Vivian Strong in the back of the head, okay, the plan from the power structure has been to use economic flight to force us out of here. Okay. I mean, I'm in my 50s now. Okay. Omaha Day is about people returning back to Omaha who had talent, skill, knowledge. They were professionals, but they could not get any gainful employment here in Nebraska. So they left due to economic flight. That's what, and then they will return. That's what Omaha Days is about. Okay. And
Right.
so it's been the plan of the power structure to continue to force us out due to economic flight and to use our children as an asset in the penal system. Okay. We have to be clear. Black people in Nebraska, we are an asset for the penal system.
Absolutely.
Okay. There was 11-year-old that shot and killed a brother. It was like 4 or 5 of them, and they shot and killed a elderly Muslim brother. Okay. Now he's at a facility now where he can walk out right now again after he committed that crime by the same judge. Okay. But symptoms, brother, are not diseases. Okay. A symptom is a hallmark, it is an indicator of the disease. Okay. What was the cause of him doing that? Poverty. He was 11 years old.
Right.
He was walking around with 4 other children. What were
Trying
they
to rob
doing?
people.
They were trying to rob people.
Yep.
Because of poverty. I know another 14-year-old boy that used to he had shot and robbed a woman in an apartment. And before he did that, he came to my mother-in-law's daycare to get something to eat.
Wow.
And bus fare. Why did he do that? Poverty.
Right.
Okay. And now they're talking about they want to lock up our 11-year-old boys.
That's
and
right.
girls.
And girls.
Okay.
And Brother Hayes is saying he appreciates your question, Miss Weston, because what do we want specifics? And he's saying he want real beautiful places of gathering. And Brother Johnson is talking about another example with money that LaVanya Goodwin is claiming to have brought for North Omaha. Why does it not look like business in North Omaha? So, and it kind of goes into my next thing. Let me just read what Shay said. I did not know that is what Omaha Day meant. I'm not from here, but I have my son here, and that's great history to know. So she appreciated your comments, and I'm definitely going to let him know that I did not know that people was leaving because of economic reasons and coming back and showing their talents. And then not only that, like, when do they show their talents? Like, does it stay? And it's too much talent. Is the city? It has so many hidden gems, which is true, and it's sad to see people go. And not spread the wealth. And so it goes into our next thing, which is develop independent community infrastructure. Economic independence, I believe, is key, right? Supporting Black-owned businesses, investing in Black institutions, creating self-sustaining models that do not rely on outside validation for funding. But like you said, 24th Street, since Vivian, has turned into a what? A nonprofit begging district. Right. So now everybody got to be quiet and shut up so they can get their money, because if you ask questions about something, then you're ousted. So that's kind of where I'm at. And so building community-led organizations that engage directly with grassroots issues rather than dependent on external gatekeepers. How do we get out of that? Because that's where we're stuck in. And so our district, from what is it supposed to be, Lake, 24th and Lake, 24th and Ames, all the way to Cummings, we can't even name 10 viable businesses that we have that's not relying on grants or got to be quiet in order to get funded. How do we build those organizations, community-led organizations that not only build with the grassroots, but create economic independence?
Brother, it's clear, brother. Okay, the pseudo leadership is functioning as a firewall. They need to be removed.
Right.
Okay. I'm not saying that these people aren't intelligent. I'm not saying that they don't have some talent, some skill, or some ability that we can utilize. Okay. Okay. But they are poodles.
Yep.
Okay. If you know anything about a game dog, brother, you can't send no poodle to no dog fight.
Right.
And that's what is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We have people who are in the beggar's line. Can you
And
see
Myron
this?
said parallel infrastructures. We need to own the pond. You
Right.
know. Yeah.
All right. We keep sending in poodles to a dog fight. Okay. And you know, like I mean, we look at Senator Ernie Chambers, who was a great man. Okay, even Ben Gray when he used to be organic. Okay, where's the quiet strategy room, brother, where these type of brothers are multiplying themselves?
And I think that's what Miss Weston was talking about, like
Okay,
not passing that torch or setting it up for the next generation. And that's a very good point.
you know, and not only that, I mean, look at brother Terrell McKinney. Okay, he had to be baptized by the fire. He had to go into Lincoln and just dive in. Okay, and go through the learning curve. We didn't prepare that brother for what he's doing right now.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
He
So
said,
that's another thing we need to do is we
yeah.
need to have a system, a process where we're preparing people and
Yeah.
then they can plug in and out of the system. So when people turn into coons, we can pull them out
Right.
because that's going to occur too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But right now we have a whole bunch of people who are posing as our leaders and speaking for us and got our money.
Whew.
Well, I'd say you say that they are speaking for you. Why we have to take some responsibility
Come
for
on.
allowing them to do that.
Absolutely. That's why I was talking about demanded
But
trans.
that's why I said, sister, they have to be removed.
Why
Yeah.
did we not remove them?
Well, hey,
You
Yeah.
spoke of Ben Gray. We put Ben Gray in there for 3 terms, 12 years.
Woo.
And what came out of, well, I should say what came out, what was the benefit for North Omaha?
Mm.
Now he will say he brought Walmart's here. No, he did not bring Walmart's here. Walmart's was already in the discussion underneath Councilman Brown.
And let's be honest, Walmart has tore down our local grocery stores where we had actual meat managers,
Exactly.
produce managers who went through the quality. They would give you the cuts. They went through the boxes and took out the bad produce before they set it out. And the meat was cut in the back rooms. If you wanted a certain cut, you could. Walmart is just a pack. They come out with a box. They unpack the meat, set it out. They unpack the greens, set them out. There's no care. And we've lost the touch of, because I was a grocery person for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And we've lost the care of the grocery business when you talk about Walmart. So that's not something good to brag on. Let me just catch up on some of these comments. Tony said, you bring the financial mismanagement of North Omaha to light at a great level. You may change the funding mechanisms. If it's election year, so no one wants to be connected to the financial crimes, even the mayor. And then Shay is just talking about where we don't have anywhere to gather. Like when she first moved here, it used to be the Stone Soul Picnic and all that stuff that we did used to have. And it seemed like it was more of a change. And like she said, it was it was going away for other people. So she was like, I don't want to live here anymore if it's not black anymore. And then Myron saying that's why every week we're bringing entrepreneurship education on the Big Fish Show. Good plug on there. And we have to decentralize our efforts with a collective vision. Also, we must rethink business from a centralized perspective. We must launch tech, AI, e-commerce, while yes, creating visible places wherever we can. Some of our greatest influencers are sitting behind a screen, creating content, making money. So
also, brother, you know, we have to in real time look back at what they did. Like she mentioned, and y'all both mentioned the issue with Ben Gray in there for 12 years. Okay. I personally know Ben. I love and respect him as a person. Okay. But
right.
Let's get into the historical context of what happened with him and Ernie Chambers. Okay. When I met them, they were lock and step. Neither one of them was a Democrat or a Republican. You couldn't come at the community with either one of them challenging them. So what occurred? They were working on us controlling our own school district. The white power structure the white liberals in particular, did not want us to have our own school districts. So what did they do? Ben was running for city council. They split them up and had Ben do the liberal two-step.
The liberal two-step.
Okay.
Okay.
They took one of our greatest soldiers, foot soldiers for the community. I know this man. Okay. They split those two up. They took two lions and split them up. And what we have to do in hindsight is not look at either one of them, but look at the enemy.
Right.
You cannot take and split me if I choose not to be split.
Here you go. And where's that?
You cannot buy me.
Right.
And that's what's happened. Let's just be honest now. They were two great men, but hey, you didn't touch on my toes. I got it. You brought it out.
Yeah.
I wasn't going that direct, but since you brought it, no, we support it. It's no different than when we supported Councilman Brown. We supported and got him elected. Yeah. And after the term, we couldn't even get an appointment with him.
Yeah.
You're right.
You did the same thing. You want to say that they split? No, they could not split something if those did not choose to be split.
You're right.
Gray went in there, and once he got a little taste of somebody patting him on the head and get to have lunch with the people in the top at the hotel down there where they split this north from the south or downtown from North Omaha, that's what happened. You can't split a bond unless the bond chooses to be split.
I'm not saying that no one is not responsible for their own decision.
Then,
okay. What I'm saying is we have to always keep focus on who the true opposition is, their tactics. I'm talking about the tactic of splitting them up.
You know what? I gotta interrupt because you're trying to put it on the people. The people didn't do that. You cannot put that on
I didn't say it was the people. I'm saying the white.
The
white power. Hold on, sister. Hold on. The white power structure, not us. The white power structure came and financed Ben Gray. The white power structure told. Hold on. Let me finish, sister. Let me finish. No. The white power structure split those two up.
So
now, if they are responsible for the decision that they make.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying.
Is if they had a bond, it wouldn't have been able to be split. But you're saying it was split because one person got financed and they didn't. So it's pretty much the same thing. And so then he's saying, do like white folks in the street, door to door, tell community what's taking place, blah blah blah, and attend town hall meetings. But without the community without us coming together and we looking at all these separations, I see what you're saying, Jahi, is that we look at how they were able to be split. But like Miss Weston said, if me and her got a bond, I don't care what money they bring, they shouldn't be able to come and split us. And we allowed that to happen. And even once we seen it, we kept reelecting him over and over and over. And Myron said, we got to create our own funding pool. That's why we started On the Pond grant. And let's get the people around the table doing the work. Chrome, Leo, Sherman, the Stacys, the Tamikas, the Ballards, the Joshes, these people that's doing the work. And so, yeah, I think when you look at North Omaha in the whole, we have people that are for sale. They're for sale. So if you come in with the money and they say, hey, Miss Weston, I'm going to give you $20,000. Just don't talk to that bald head fat dude, Sherman, no more. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to Jahi, no more. And we'll fund you. Mm-hmm. And that should not be able to happen if we had that structure and that bond and that unity, which we didn't have with them. And so now we're going into controlling the narrative, right? So with, our media, come on now, they control the narrative of what North Omaha looks like. That's why I don't mess with, what is that one that they have now that everybody go to for news? It's shoot, I can't think of the name. Somebody remind me of the name. They always know the breaking news in North Omaha ahead of time. They on Facebook, but I'm blocked off their page. I'll think of it. But I don't mess with them because they not only do they always talk about the bad media, but they also allow people to comment about North Omaha all the time. And then they'll block you if you say something to the people that's saying it. So the media, to me, is playing a significant role in shaping perceptions of the Black community, right? And creating and supporting independent Black media platforms, to me, would ensure that our stories are told for us and by us, like FUBU. So that's why I think it's important. Like Miss Weston got her show. I have this show. Miss Chantella, she got her show. Hey, Chantella. And we have to control the narrative and then challenge the mainstream media and the narratives that tokenize Black voices, right? While suppressing those who push for systematic change, because they'll put them on the news all the time. But then, yeah, the same old ones. But then they'll say, I robbed a bank and did something to somebody and then don't want to take it back. So I want to know, like, even the audience, if y'all want to answer this, how important is it for us to control the narrative, and how do we get more control over the narrative? Because when the whole thing happened with Channel 6, I said, hey, we don't want them interviewing in our community anymore. But what did Black people do? Still interview with them, you know, and still allow them to come in and say stuff and do things. There was one time I remember Channel 7 showed one of my friends, he got shot, and they showed him on the ground dead with his eyes open and didn't apologize for it. But then they took it off, but you still showed it. I didn't want to see that, you know, and they still do that kind of stuff. I can't think of that. That Omaha Scanner, that's what it is. Omaha Scanner, man, I'm blocked from there because they allow them people to come on there and talk about us so reckless. It's not even funny. And then they don't censor them, but if we come on there and say something to them, then we get censored, you know. So yeah.
Well, I mean, we pretty much need our own anything, brother.
Yeah.
And we have an epidemic of lack of manhood.
Yeah.
We have a serious epidemic of a lack of manhood. Again, I think that we have to have we have to have quiet.
Who is to fault for that? If we have a lack, anything you have a lack of, who's to fault for it?
Yeah, Kasim talked about it.
Well, it's twofold.
Okay.
Yeah. It's twofold. Okay. I can't put you in a cage and then come back and open the cage up later on and then start talking about your lack of dexterity and then absolve myself from putting you in the cage in the beginning. So, I mean, it's twofold, you know. And then at the same time, for example, like Senator Chambers wanted us to have our own control of our own school district. Okay.
And who fought him?
Well, actually, at that particular time, when they split up at that time, the community was confused because the community never seen both of them not operate together. So the community was confused at that time. And it was absolutely ridiculous and asinine for Ben to think that we don't need to control our own school district. Don't you need your own toothbrush? Your own bank? Your own underwear? Your own house?
Yep. And Chantella's agreeing with Miss Weston that sometimes it's us that start the split. It's us sometimes. And Ben Gray initially did have the people in the beginning. Like I said, when he had that flat top, I thought he was cool. He was really getting out there with the people. But then, like I said, you know, his last name is Gray because his black faded. It started fading away from what we wanted, right, to political interests. And so now when I go to city council, Brother Don Rowe, he said I'm a bully. And he only said that because I feel like the whole council has lost what they're supposed to be there for. You've lost why we voted for you. It's supposed to be about our interests, not your political friendships with the mayor, with Joni Poor, with none of these people. It's not about that. It's about what we want. So if we're saying that this is what's happening in the community, and then you still turn around and vote against what the community. So what are we paying our tax dollars for? To have you in there to go against us over and over?
Well, brother, what they do with a lot of us, a lot of our so-called leadership, they get on the liberal plantation, brother, and they put the leash on them. Okay. And then we get in this pseudo diversity. Everybody, we got to carry the water for everybody else. Ridiculous, backward strategy. Okay. First of all, brother, how everybody else deals with politics, they go to the political center with their interest, with their collective interest of their group. Okay. And they put that into the circle. They're not concerned with anyone else. We got a water carry for everyone else.
Right.
We got, well, what about this group over here? What about them? And then we engage in all this pseudo fairness, which just simply means we get at the end of the line. We have to stop that.
Right.
Okay. We go to the.
How do you stop it? How do you stop it?
Well, by going with us first without apology.
Yeah. No apology. And like she said, there's no excuse. The resources is at our disposal. Ignorant is no longer bliss, being ignorant about it.
Well, I mean, brother, look at the Jews. The Jews are Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah.
But they also have a quiet strategy room called the Knesset. And in the Knesset, the Jew that wears the Republican hat, the Jew that wears the Democratic hat, the Jew that wears the independent hat, they get together and they understand they're just wearing a hat.
Absolutely. No, I don't have a call-in number, Chantella. I have to get you on here. And Miss Jean said, not personal interest in elevation. Anthony said, the black Miss.
Can I interrupt? One quick thing there is that, and I think, I believe it was Myron Price.
Pierce right here.
Pierce. Yeah. Create a community council that drives my interests.
Yes.
And that's where, just like now, you have the elections for a city council, which is one spot, one position, one vote. And I tell time and time when I spoke at the city council, yes, you are elected from a district, but you have a vote that represents the entire city.
Absolutely.
We have to be able to, how do we reach out past that city council person to bring in people from around each one of the districts? There's 7 districts. How do you get people in there to be a part of what you're trying to accomplish? Because you will never get it by yourself. So we can forget that unless you become so powerful as you go back to the Wall Street in Oklahoma or Mississippi. Those, they knew. Why? Because those people had come together and they were able to do it on their own. So I'm saying, like, when we're looking at individuals, as everybody likes to say, to be a leader, and I'll tell him in a minute, you're not my leader. You can't lead me to the bathroom. I can go to point the bathroom out and I'll get myself to the bathroom, but you can't lead me there. I can only be led if I allow you to be that. So you are my representative. You're not my leader. We have to get over this part that we have to have one person to be the leader. You cannot use one person can't do it.
Right.
Using the power of the recall. Let me tell you about city council here in Omaha, Nebraska. You can recall any one of those city council members, but guess what? You will not be the one to determine who takes their place.
Absolutely.
So, a recall would be great if we could have a special election, as you would if you did the mayor. That would be, but not city council. You can't, it serves you no point, I guess, to say recall that. But I would like to, your point, we keep going over this.
Yeah.
If we don't have come together community, and I can't say it enough, what do we want?
Mm-hmm.
And if we keep thinking this, okay, just as I think her name was Chantel, as she said, we backed our city council representative. We backed the one that's in there right now. We did that. How can we hold them accountable? You can't, because once they get in there, they lose it. They do. Not us taking it from them. They make that decision themselves. The people backed it, because the one we have now would not be there if we hadn't backed them and said, we don't want any more of Ben Gray, as you said, the fade. No, we've got to come together. And Chantel, she says, recognize Black politicians in cheap clothing.
Absolutely.
Why? Because they become part of the system. They become part of the system. We do not have individuals, and I'll use one of my favorite, Representative Jasmine Crawford. She don't let none of them. She tell them in a heartbeat, you can't buy me. My people put me here. Nothing you can buy me. We don't have that type of individuals here in Omaha, Nebraska.
Well, I mean, again, we need it put in place. I'm going to give a solution here, okay? We need to put in place a system where we can have leverage on these people that's supposed to be representing us. We have to have our own system that can merge with their system and remove people, pull rotten teeth out.
Right. Who are the we? Who's going to be the we?
The we is the us. I would say the we is the people. But look at what Tony said. How do we get the majority of the community to become more active? What are they saying is the thing needed for them to chime in our community? And so that leads right to the next thing: mobilize and unify. It doesn't mean uniformity, but the collective action is necessary. Bridging generational gaps, I believe, is one, right? Mm-hmm. Ideological divides, like everybody got their own idea on how it should be done, and organizing differences. I think it should be a strength and not looked at as a divide. But for some reason, all that stuff is a divide. And so how do we bring, and then like you just said, who's the us? Who is willing to take it on? Because Tony, I think, said it earlier, most people is afraid to get in these types of rooms and conversations because they'll get their money pulled. You know, they don't want to start being the one to ruffle no feathers or anything. So how do we get the collective started? Like she said, we need to think as a collective and not individuals.
Well, we have to be able to feed their minds and their stomach, brother. Okay. And so we have a lot of our people, they're not even aware of the unicameral. Okay. We're electing people and we're putting them, and we don't have realistic expectations for them because they haven't been prepared. They don't know the processes and the system of the job that we're putting them in.
Ooh, Chantella said once they get in the room, they freeze up and turn cold. Is it that? It's true. I mean,
yeah,
true. I mean, like for example, brother, when I was listening to Ben talk about he had $1.4 billion in investors in North Omaha. Okay. And then to talk like that, like we're totally oblivious as to who benefited. We're not up $1.4 billion. So you gave white people $1.4 billion and we need to be happy about that? Okay. Now let's examine that, brother. Now, what I want to hear from from Ben is, or anybody that's running, okay, here's my plan to put $1.4 billion into black people's pockets. Okay. If you can put $1.4 billion into white investors' pockets, okay, white people benefited from $1.4 billion in North Omaha, then you should be able to do the same thing for us.
Right. And Myron saying the only thing that any system understands is power. Power must be embodied in the collective and in our currency. And so that kind of goes back to what I was saying. How do we leverage the collective economic and political influence to set the terms of engagement with outsiders rather than reacting to the decisions they're making without us?
Well, for one thing, brother, we have to remove the pseudo leadership. We have to, this reminds me, brother, back in the 80s when the guys from California came here and we ran a lot of them out. Okay. They came here, They got all our parents strung out, turn them into crackheads. Everybody started killing each other here that's already family related. Okay. Then they take our girls to the mall and talk about us and call us busters. Okay. So myself and other people decided this has to stop. Okay. And what we're going to have to do, we're going to let the out of town people know you're not my leader.
Right.
And replace them. They could be, this is our house. Okay. All right. Ain't no Cali boys here running nothing here anymore.
Right.
Okay. This is our house. You don't allow anyone to come in your house, take what's on your table and parlay it. Okay. So we have to let all the out of town people know we grew here, you flew here, and you're not in charge. Okay. Right. Like we talk about that African Affairs Council. Okay. They took a brother from out of town, sent him down there, and had him vote to remove somebody else from here.
Yeah.
And he's getting our money. He's getting millions of dollars of our money. He's going to be set in front of us as a leader. Right. He's going to come in front of us with pseudo economics. Okay. And I've talked to all these people, brother, with $75 million proposals. Okay. Multi-million-dollar proposal for gainful employment. You know what? I hear crickets from all of them because of who I am. Okay. I am not going to submit to the white power structure. I am not going to let no out-of-town clown send me off a precipice either.
Yeah.
Okay. And so again, we need to remove the firewall of protection. The white power structure here doesn't even have to exert any energy. We got people, brother, who have nonprofit organizations who sit down with the police and get money for them after they kill us when we're running away from the police.
Oh, wait.
Okay? You sit down with them and they shooting our black boys in their house, in their underwear, and they selling drugs. Why? Because they're in an economic prison. And we know what's going on.
Right.
It's not if we I don't know what's going on. We clearly know what's going on, okay? We need to remove their firewall. Remove them.
Like Chantella talking about that the white developers was able to cash in on the funds allocated for North Omaha. Anything north of Dodge is considered north, not black businesses. So and Twin said she literally said the same thing. So I think too, if we get into the last part of it, where I was talking about demanding policy and structural change, right? And this is something I wanted to ask you about, Ms. Weston, about the symbolic representation meaning nothing without material benefits. So policies that address wealth disparities, education, criminal justice, and housing, it must be prioritized. But like you just said, who's going to be the person or the group of people that's going to prioritize these things and push for accountability from politicians, businesses, and institutions that claim to support Black communities, but they fail to enact in real tangible change? And so, like, when I took all of 2024 off of doing community work, and it was just about accountability for these same things, right? Then it turned me into the villain of these rooms. I wasn't allowed, or not even allowed, but I wasn't asked to be there. And then if I did show up, it was be good. Don't, and like when the Department of Justice came here, they said my name came up, but they didn't invite me into the room and didn't invite you, or they didn't invite him either. So how do we demand this policy and structural change, and who does that?
Those of us, brother, we have to send those who are qualified.
Yeah, let me have her answer that. What do you think, Ms. Weston, about that?
Well, part of it is, and I'm going to use one of the examples you said, like when the Justice Department came.
Yeah.
I went to one meeting.
Wow.
One meeting. because when I went to that one meeting, I saw exactly where it was going, and it was going to end up to be just like it did with the Justice Department coming. So I wasn't going back. And that's sometimes where we have to take a stand. We don't have to keep going to those kinds of things. And then, there was earlier when someone said, well, we have to stop so we don't look like we're publicly fighting. We're fighting in public. We're dying in public. Why aren't you fighting to live in public? We're dying. So when those types of things, we have to change, as I said, to see who's going to be there, who's willing to stand up. And also, Sherman, we have to look at who can stand. Because when you have people within our community who aren't even sure where their next meal is going to come, they're standing in the homeless, they're in the lines with the food pantries. Do you think they can? Do you think that they can fight? No, but I'm saying those who can fight should fight. Now, who are those? As Rio just said, there is only those with power and the powerless. And most can't handle the power. It's not that they can't handle it. They choose not to handle it in a manner that will help the powerless. That's part of it. Right now, and I hope if we can get this in, because this is really important, Sean, I think. Right now, we've got a situation where the Nebraska legislature is looking at LB 556.
556. Yep, that's
to
one.
Put our children.
That's right.
11 and under. If you go and you look at the statistics, who is in the Douglas County Youth Center right now? They're going to come from 6, 8, 1, 1, 11, 10, and 6. Few from 6, and then from 7 and 8. Why am I saying? Right now, this is in. I attended an Empowerment Network meeting a week ago or 2 weeks Saturday. And they talked about this. What we need to do is we're going to see what we can do because we need to. Senator McKinney said one of the things that gets is when they have these hearings and he's fighting for it, the senators will say, well, where are the people? Where's the people that's so upset about it? And I'm coming around the long way. But what I heard Mr. Barney say was, when we went to fight for that millions you got from ARPA, you took a busload of people down there. Mm-hmm. Why aren't we working now to take not a busload, but buses of students, young kids that can tell the story to the senator to say, this will affect my family. It could affect my sister, my brother. This is not right to put in an 11-year-old because their minds aren't developed. How come we, and I'm saying we, us people here who have some power, why can't we put pressure on people who receive 20 million or 10 million or 800,000 from the ARPA funds to say, you pay for the buses. Mr. Love, you got X amount of dollars. You provide some buses. Empowerment Network, you get the buses. Make sure that our people are there, because if that law passes, you know who's going to fill it up. Mm-hmm. You know who's going.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're working to privatize prisons? Because it's money. What are we going to do? So I just wanted to say, if you want an example, what can we do? Why aren't we coming together collectively? People like you, people like Brother Shabazz there, people like Mr. Pierce, people are able to have some power and can speak and can bring people together. Why aren't we demanding those that have the money, that got it, that was supposed to be for the community, to make sure that laws like that don't get in?
And that's what it looked like on paper. So when Chantella is asking, but Miss Weston is asking, who is we and how do we do that? And she says she haven't heard an answer from Jahi. But I want to tell you, Miss Wallace, that when that big money came in, me and Jahi, he basically did a lot of all the work. I was just there hosting it, and he was feeding me the information. But what we found out was the biggest heist of all time happened right in front of us, right? And so if you didn't know that him, me, Miss Weston, all these different people exist in the community, and the stuff that we're doing, it's not always broadcast. So then when you say we are the ones who's doing and being the disruptors in the community, but we need more, like Tony Johnson said. So you need to disrupt the system and those in position of the system, but whatever strategy is accepted in its force is going to require more than those that's chiming in right now. We need more help. Everybody talks about stuff, and that was the word of today in church, actually. Everybody talks and types from behind the keyboard, but when it's action time, and I say show up at this time, and we need these people like Miss Weston. She watched that city council agenda like a hawk, and she'll put out something saying this is coming up at city council, and we get down there and the chairs are empty. There's nobody there to support or talk about the things that's going to directly affect us. And so that's what we need: more people to show up to support the things that we are fighting or talking about that directly affects us. And it goes back into mobilizing and unifying and making sure we supporting people in a place like in our city that's actually doing the work.
And you don't have to say anything.
Yeah.
Just show up. Because you know what? Numbers make a difference. And when they see numbers, and I say they, when people in power see numbers,
I like it.
Of people, it scares them because they say you have realized your potential and what you can do with the power that you have.
Man, and let me tell you, we was showing up for a girl who was going by herself where the state was messing her around with her kids. And then just one day we got together with her and showed up. It was about 25, 26 of us, standing room only in that courtroom. Don't you know they all got up and walked out and pulled the counsel, and the girl like, well, who is all these people? Like, what's going on? Why is there so many people? They like, for this one case, we ain't never seen this many people show up for one person about her kids. And guess what? She ended up getting them back because they couldn't talk crazy to her in front of all of us being there. So the numbers is what happened. And like Chantella said, we have to dismantle the system. And Myron is saying that it's big business behind privatized prisons. So let me tell you something. If you don't travel, you won't know this, right? But when I go to different cities and states, they don't have so much of an emphasis on locking up young Black people. No. The privatized prison system here is a business now. Correct. So they use that. So like in Seattle, when I was there, they have legal marijuana. They have NFL teams, NBA teams, hockey teams. They will give you as a nonprofit. Like if me and brother Penn went there, we could start an organization. They would give us millions of dollars to make sure that when people come in town, the young people ain't there tearing up. So if we got something that's going to occupy their time, they will give you that money because they want you to help keep the youth from being into crimes in prisons. Here, that's a financial stability for most people. So they're never going to give somebody like me or Jahi or Miss Weston or somebody a bunch of money because they profit off of locking up our babies, starting early in elementary, putting them on that medicine, keeping record on them. And then every single time they mess up, they write it down. And then when they get to jail, oh, well, he's been having a problem since second grade. We've had him on pills since he was a little kid. So this is why he needs to be locked up in prison now, because he hasn't changed since we seen him at, in elementary school. So in also, Nebraska, that you're dealing with Nebraska, they love the fact that they can collect data on North Omaha, keep it a nonprofit, keep the data, write a check. Use a coupon to the federal government, say, I'm helping these Negroes in the 6811 area code, and get the money to pay their salaries for their nonprofit.
You know, brother, they're also building another $300 million prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the reason why they're building another $300 million prison is because Black people, our children, are nothing but an asset for the penal system.
Come on, man.
That's all they want. They if they could get rid of all of us here, one time in the history of Oregon, they removed every black person out of the state in the state of Oregon. Okay, and so what we're dealing with here, brother, is we're dealing with really neo-Nazi mentality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love what Anthony just said right here. People should not be afraid of their governments. The government should be afraid of the people.
True, true. But they're building another $300 million cage.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to fill that up?
And so what Myron is saying, we have to get together behind one another financially. Can you imagine 200 people getting behind one business? That one business can empower many of us. I'd rather 100 unbroke people show up than 100 broke people. I'm sorry. I'll keep pushing this. We must push legislation and economics and entrepreneurship. And so, Myron, when I get back, I have to double back on this conversation. And so I will add you to this conversation, and also you, Miss Wallace, because when I circle back to this, I definitely want to make sure that we have some solutions and some ideas on what to do, because even Tony is saying, what businesses do you recommend we start with? And I would tell you right off the rip, from what we experienced over last summer, shouts out to Anjali, we should start with a gas station, because we have 0 black-owned gas stations in Omaha that we could go, and only black people, not only, but I'm saying the majority of us, if we went, we could make that the #1 gas station. Right now, we have to go into the gas stations where we're being disrespected, talked crazy to, and people's witnessed that. They did witness it, and then we had to go in there and do some corrective behavior things to make them get name tags. They talking in their own language, all that stuff. And all we do is complain about it, but nobody, like Myron said, is coming together, putting the money up, and having the opportunity to own a gas station. Now, what did come of that is we were able to get black-owned items sold in that gas station. We were able to get a system set up for complaints, get name tags, have them stop speaking in their own language, get a black woman to be able to cater food in there for a customer appreciation day. But what also came from that was the people who own the franchise, not the people who's just in there. Mm-hmm. They want to discuss with North Omaha, and this goes back to Ms. Weston. They wanted to discuss with North Omaha on how can we come into your city and help y'all franchise one of those gas stations. Basically, what do you want? So if you tired of dealing with these foreigners, who's willing to come to the table and sit down with BP or Phillips 66 and say, okay, we want to start our own black-owned gas station in North Omaha with who? Who's going to come in and open this gas station? Okay.
And some cities, what they have done is, I'm just going to throw out a number, and I don't know what the number, but I'm just going to say you need to have $500,000 to do that gas station. Okay. What some cities have done is it becomes a community-owned gas station. The people put in X amount of dollars, and then as my price, you can have, there's in the one city I'm thinking of, it was Chase Bank, and I can't think of the other, but there was another that came in and they helped finance that because it was community owned by the people within that community. They own that. So what they were doing was helping them and showing them how to. And what we are doing while we're having all this discussion, let me tell you what's happening to North Omaha. Your demographics are changing.
Yeah.
I like to have the data and the research. Your demographics are changing.
Yeah.
And while we're around here fussing over this and talking, and I do say talking because that's all we're doing is talking, our community is being taken away from us. Because you are having developer after developer after developer come in and get TIF funding and build housing and apartments and so forth. And they are taking this. You're not watching what the taxes are being done. Your current mayor keeps saying, well, I didn't raise the taxes. But the levy went up. So a person's taxes are going up. People who own property in North Omaha aren't going to be able to live here much longer and own that property because of the tax levies that are doing. As you talk about it, Myron Price said earlier, you got to have legislation. You got to know what the policies are. You got to understand what can and cannot be done. So what they're doing is we are losing North Omaha as our community because we continuously talk. After this show, how many will come together and say, hey, Sherman, how can we get together? Let's start something. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to do that. 2 weeks, it's just like when we have had our Black men killed. 2 weeks. They give you 2 weeks and you won't hear anything else about it.
Hear nothing else about it. And the issue is so deep, but I don't believe it's insurmountable. I just think it requires.
No, I'm not saying it's.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying you're saying that. I just think sometimes people think it's insurmountable, but it do requires like a strategic and intentional shift from passive participation to active ownership and like to control our collective destiny. And like Myron, he's putting a lot of gems in the chat, right? And so if Myron is the person that feels like he has this plan, like you said, Miss Weston, why are we not coming together? Let's hear Myron out and jump on this, because not only Myron, there's a guy named Andre McGraw who has a Black investment group that's Black, that's growing pretty heavy. And they're putting their money together to invest, and eventually we got to jump out. But why are we not following any steps that Myron is coming up with, or Andre McGraw, or anybody else? Brother Spaz got that plan that you have. I know that you gave to the senators and different people. We need that kind of stuff. And like Myron said, I have an economic plan. And Tony Johnson said there's no Black agenda. So, I mean,
I sat down with Myron and went over a whole bunch of things, brother.
Okay.
On economic development with him.
Yeah.
It to me, man, it's not impossible what we need to do. It can be done, man.
Yep. I believe it can be done, and everybody got to play their role. So if Myron has the ideas, you have some ideas. I have people that'll listen. You know, we can pull that all together. And then also, Ms. Weston, I believe your biggest thing is the accountability piece of who is the we. What are we going to do? We can talk about it, but what are we going to do action-wise about it? So hopefully people will share this live, because it was a good discussion. We definitely needed to have it. And I think that it needs to be more than just talking. And Brother Shabazz, Myron, Ms. Weston, like, we eventually probably gonna have to have it where I have this show with all of y'all on here, and we do a little bit more talking, but then we need those behind the scene meetups where we come up with a strategic plan, and then we present the idea to the community and a place for them to start sending their money. But then again, it goes back to the title of the live: in the wrong state with the right state of mind. Because I'm not gonna front, y'all. I have moments where I feel like, is this gonna work here? Because these girls around here, they will focus on some of the stupidest stuff. Right? And we could be in the middle of a burning building and they still talking about the fight, or, you know, something that happened, or, you know, that has nothing to do with saving our community or anything collective. And that annoys me so much so sometimes I'll be wanting to move to a cabin in the woods and talk to the animals.
Well, I would like to just end my little part on this.
Okay.
Until we can come up with, again, an answer. What is it you want?
Yes.
What is it you want? So then we can know what kind of plan do we need to put together in order to obtain what we want. What is it we have? What's the pathway to get to what we want? And so here's a couple of people there that I've seen on the chat that say, I want to be involved. But Why are we going to bring them to a meeting and we have no solid conversation prepared for them, no plan, no go, no nothing? So what happens when you do that? I'm not going back there no more. They ain't talking about nothing. They ain't doing what we got to get over that. And until we do that, I'm afraid we could have 50 more meetings, 50 more conversations, and we're nowhere.
I don't meet that many times. After a couple of, if it ain't no action,
I exaggerated that.
I know, know, I'm out of there. Shoot.
Well, we just need to get together and get a plan together and present the plan.
Yeah.
I was working with Brother Myron on some stuff, man. We need to just have a plan and have the numbers, and this is what we need to do. And then put together a strategy to do that. And again, we're gonna have to have some infighting. We're gonna have to clean. We're gonna have to get the dung out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna get around that. There are people who are just getting their little bag. Again, brother, I have talked to several people about gainful employment. I have gave them numbers. I put numbers down, and you know what else? Like we put together when we research all the information on the biggest heists on how they stole all that money.
Yeah.
There's no way I can take aim at the white people who ripped off the community without hitting the sellouts too.
Ooh.
Okay.
Right.
I've been really restraining myself.
Man, because you dug into that something vicious.
I know who backdoored and overhauled everything. Okay, and they totally illegally ignored the metric process. And the two senators, if you read the bill, that bill was for for-profit businesses. And the white power structure understood we're going to move most of this money into nonprofits, so you cannot invest it, you can't multiply it. If I give you $200-300 million, you can't multiply it and then turn it into $1 billion. They do not want us to be economically self-sufficient. Okay, and anybody that's running for city council, including Ben, if you cannot sit down and show us on how you're going to put $1.4 billion into our pockets, we're not voting for you.
At all. So I want to give y'all one chance for final words before we get out of here. Miss Weston, what's your final words to the community? And I do want to thank all of y'all for chiming in, because there was a lot of people commenting. I was trying to keep up with reading them all, but I did at least click them onto the screen so y'all had a chance. And I appreciate y'all all chiming in with y'all questions, y'all comments, because that is the kind of conversations we need. We do have a lot of people watching us that's not on. So it's saying 20 eyes is on us, but I know once I hang this up, it'll probably be a couple of hundred that was actually watching, and it's fine, you know. And I just want to circle back to one comment where Stretch said it's a circle, and people it's the same old people over and over again. We have to break that up. So I want to give you a chance, Miss Weston, to give your final thoughts on this.
My final thought would be, we have the ability, and we can, and we should, but are we? And I'm not one to continue to keep on talking and having a meeting. That's not me.
Me neither.
So if I don't have and I am not going to blame others if we can't take and be accountable and responsible for us. So that's my end. And I'll probably get flack for that, but that's okay. It's what I believe.
Yep. Brother Shabazz, what's your final thoughts, sir?
My final thoughts, brother, is I'm with sitting down with Miss Weston or whoever, Brother Myron again, and we need to put together a clear plan and put numbers together and then present it. We need a plan. Just put together a plan, man. I agree with her 100%. I don't have time for a lot of meetings either.
Me neither. No. No, I don't do a bunch of meetings. And I do really, and the reason why I took the time to write all this stuff out, and because it's what I think about consistently. I know a lot of people was asking me why I didn't run for city council. For one, I can't be here every Tuesday. I silently travel so I can get ideas. I talk to other people in other states and cities in order to bring back. I mean, I think if I stay here for too long of a period without traveling, I will lose my mind. And also, I travel a lot when and mentally I do a lot of traveling. So I sit down and I take in the words from God. I dump out some of the stuff that people tell me after I solve it because I can't carry it around. So I dump it to God and I open myself up to receive more information on what to do. And sometimes, I know people don't like my approach on some stuff, but I have to do the things that God tell me to do. And I have no care of what you think about me when I know that I have to do something. And if that means being a bad guy, showing up in all black or talking loud or disrupting a meeting, that's the kind of stuff I have to do to get it done. And then, I'll get a call from Miss Weston or Brother Shabazz actually will be in the room, and then we both end up snapping out. So it's like at this point now, I do want to see collective wealth. I do want to see us be able to not just really come together on some kumbaya stuff, but we have a lot of people that have the ideas or the love for the community to put something together. And like she said, plan of action, Miss Spencer. And so if we put together the plan, once we put together the plan, is sticking to it. Because I don't do a bunch of meetings. I don't like keep going back and forth, talking. Start the pot. When you walk through the door, matter of fact, drop your $20, $30, $40 in the pot before you even come sit down. Mm-hmm. Because that's part of the collective. I don't want to hear your words until you dropping in that money. And then you get your receipt. Once you drop in your money, you get your receipt showing what you dropped, and then let's move forward. So I'm with all that.
Could I throw out one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a good following. Why don't people who are watching, those that are willing to be online here and show their names, or those who aren't, if you have ideas, send them directly to Sherman. Send them directly to Untamed Facebook's page in the chat, or send them directly to him. You have his email. Everybody's got his number. So text him or email or something, right. And then he can bring those to people, and maybe from the show we'll be able to pick up some people who can say, hey, here's the ideals. Let's summarize these. Let's see where these go. Let's build a wheel, and here are the spokes that we need to get to that.
Right. Because one thing about me is I do recognize that I don't know everything. So when I get a bunch of ideas, I always go to the people who I think can actually navigate it. But I wouldn't mind being the conduit, because I'm telling y'all, man, I'm not saying I'm getting burnt out, because God allows me to continue to do the work, but I get attacked. I don't talk about it and I don't complain, but we get attacked on so many levels by our own people for doing this stuff that it do get tiring. And if I upped and left and you seen those rear view lights off the U-Haul, and everybody would be like, oh, yeah. And I got so much family here, so I can't just up and leave like that. I love y'all. I love my people, but I do want to see some action, because I'm an action-orientated person. And I want to see the participation. I want to see people support Myron and Jahi and Miss Weston. I want us to come together and do the thing, because this is a moment in time right now. After us, there will be others. So I always try to pass on as much knowledge as I can and much encouragement to the young people to step forward and also be a part of these discussions and all that. And like she said, you have to leave some people behind to go forward. Man, April, we do. We have to leave them behind.
That's right. You got to leave some people as what was it? Sojourn, Truth Sojourn. She shoot him or kill him. You ain't ready to go. Leave them behind. And she's so right, because those people will get you killed. So you got to do that.
All right, y'all.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh yeah, I love it when y'all come on, man. I had to bring them back up. I didn't even tell people y'all's coming. I just popped y'all in. I'm gonna bring them in so that way They see that we love each other. We always talk. We brothers and sisters. So we'll get into heated conversations over everything. You think me and Miss Weston get along about everything? No, we do not. But guess what? I love her 100%. I respect what you say and do. Same with my brother Jahi. You know, we all have a different way, but one thing about it is we're grounded in the love from where we are from, which is North.
Yes.
And I appreciate you, Sister Cheryl.
I appreciate all of you too. Yeah, and I think
sister, you've been on the front line for a long time.
And I want to pass it on. And it's kind of like I say is I don't always agree with myself 100% of the time. So how can we all agree with each other? If you tell me, oh yes, and agree with me all the time, I'm done with you because I don't even agree. So it's good that we can have a conversation. We can talk about this and work on it and say, because your ideal could be better than my ideal. My ideal could be better, or we could blend those two together. So, okay, Myron, I heard on your neck. Ha ha. Okay.
Who is we?
My point is, I just believe that we need to work on being able to at least listen, and then we can make a decision. We would tell our kids growing up, always listen. You don't have to do what they say, but listen, because sometimes what you listen to will come back to help you or prevent you from being hurt. So I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all of those that want to be involved, because that's what it's going to take. As you say, it takes a village.
Yeah. Myron said somebody need to make a t-shirt that say, who is we? Hey, and I want y'all to tune in. That's why I changed the name from Sunday Sermons with Sherman. Somebody's asking, is this every Sunday? This week I'm actually popping out a few times. So I'll be right back live with y'all on Tuesday, because there's a young lady from Omaha that's in a West Virginia federal penitentiary, and they doing them women bad. So she's gonna call me at 6:00 Tuesday. I'm gonna put her right on the phone. I'm gonna have an extra mic for her to be able to talk. And y'all are going to get to hear some horrendous things, but they're holding this sister hostage. Technically, she should be out right now, but they're holding her hostage for the funding. Again, the business of prison. And that's what they're doing, holding her and a bunch of people hostage for the business of prison. So y'all tune in Tuesday at 6:00. I did put up an event page. Facebook done changed the rules. I used to be able to invite all my friends, 5,000, 6,000, all that. Now they done limited me to 500 invites, and that's it. So I have to have other people go on there and invite. So if you ever see one of my event pages, go on there and just click invite to the thing, so that way we get more. But I know after it's done, it's always going to be a bunch of plays. So I love y'all. Appreciate y'all showing up. Thank y'all too again for joining me on this conversation, and we'll see y'all again. Peace. Bye.